Okay, so the king comes to you and stands looking at you, all of you, imperiously. Very, very noble. He's got a silver crown on his head, and um, he's wearing armor. What do you do? None of you bowing. You're not bowing. No one's bowing. Oh no, no, no. I should have told you. Okay, so when you're in the presence of the king, you have to bow. No, not just bow. You've got to go onto your knees and touch your forehead to his knee. Yeah, that's the thing. Sorry, I should have told. No, let's just do the scene again. Let's just do the scene. Scene again. Scene again. Okay, so when you see him, you've got to bow, touch your head to his knee, or maybe his foot. No, his foot's better. No, his foot's better. Okay, so we're going to do the whole scene. You know what? We might as well just go back to when you arrived in the city, because you didn't greet the guards properly either. And yeah, all right, fine. I know. Yes, I know. I didn't tell you about the guards until you'd passed them, but it's all. I've got it written down here. Or not. Hello and welcome to today's episode of The Campaign Creator. My name is Guy, and today we're looking at critical components. That is, the things that are going to make your campaign flourish and thrive, but also things that need to be there because of the type of campaign that you have chosen to run. Now, it's going to be quite tricky in terms of determining exactly what are the core elements. But to help us do that, and as the sponsors of today's show, World Anvil, as you can see on my t-shirt here, World Anvil are sponsors of today's show, and we're going to be using the World Anvil website. That's www.worldanvil.com. They are partners of the YouTube channel, as you have come to know them. And what we're going to be using is we're going to be using some of their templates to help us to determine what are the critical components of our campaign. So what are the critical components of our campaign? Now let's cast our minds back very briefly before we go to World Anvil. What was the campaign about? Now so far we've got Jakar, this loathsome, grotesque, massive, corpulent individual who is trying to take over the kingdom of Utherios, the hegemony of Utherios. Now we've worked out transport. Transport's not a problem. We've got our griffins and they can fly a certain distance and all that kind of stuff. So we're okay there. But the griffins are not integral to the campaign, at least not from what we can see in terms of the entire structure. We've got defending cities, we've got moving around cities and the like, but we don't really have a huge need for the particular types of transport. So what are our critical components? Now this is going to vary from game to game and from genre to genre. If, for example, you are running, let's say, a starship campaign where it's mainly based in a starship, so you're doing something like Firefly or you're doing something like Star Trek, there your critical components, there are quite a few that are involved, but principally it's going to be starship combat as well as perhaps life aboard a starship. You need to work that out before you put your players into. So when they're asking you all of those questions, you can answer them straight away without having to make stuff up. Here's a little spoiler. You are still going to have to make up stuff because players are going to ask you questions that you never even thought of. Trust me, they are going to do that. But if you have a bigger framework with which to reference, your answers are going to seem to be that much better. And they're going to seem a bit more appropriate, and they're going to seem less off the cuff, and you've got to have a lot of material to fall back on when you are coming up with these impromptu answers. So that's why we need to look at critical components. If, on the other hand, you're running a game of survival and it's post-apocalyptic, what are your critical components? Well, your critical components there, perhaps, might be the different effects that different types of terrain have. So when you enter into the Badlands and it's all mutating fog and acid pools, you need to know what's been done to mitigate that. Because as players, they're going to be in this world and they're going to say, well, if the world is like this, surely they would have adapted, they would have added or overcome things. Now, if it's brand new, if it's a fresh apocalypse and people are trying to survive, that's a different story. There, your critical components are what has survived and can be used by the players. Now, again, you're not trying to list everything that's available, but you are trying to do broad strokes. So if we look at Mad Max, for example, post-apocalyptic, what has survived? Petrol. Somehow gas has managed to survive in giant tankers and is now the exchangeable resource, that and pools of water. So the critical component, if you were running a Mad Max type of game, is working out how much gas is available, and it seems to be almost unlimited, but where is the gas, who controls it, how does one use it, how far can you travel on a tank of gas, what have they optimized in terms of the engines, and the like. So those are critical components that you need to look at there. If we look at, say, Ghosts of Saltmarsh, which is foremost on my mind, given the campaign that I'll be running, or will have run by the time you watch this video, the idea behind that is there's lots of naval stuff. So what can we add to make that feel more nautical? What are the critical components? Ships are the critical components, if it's going to be a ship-based campaign. So when we look at the hegemony of Aetherios, we then need to say, well, what is the critical campaign? Because the entire campaign is set in this military-style operation, we've got lots of army movements, we've got lots of invasions, we've got all those kinds of things happening. We need to then understand that the critical components, I would say anyway, start to lean towards the military structures within the hegemony itself. The rulership, the controlling monarchs and leaders, as well as then the army itself. So we need to look into that and add to that. But adding to that is not just a simple case of filling out a form. Well, actually it is, because of World Anvil, but it's not. No, that's it. It is as simple as that. Let's go and have a look. So we're going to have a look now, and we're going to unpack these critical components. So here we go. This is Uther's Dragons. This was the page that we created for our campaign. There's the basic write-up about the hegemony. Now we're going to go to rank and title, because, and this is one of the reasons why I suggest that you use a world aggregator, something that inspires you. This is why I like World Anvil, because they've got so many templates, it's almost daunting. But again, if you know where you're going, it's a absolute godsend. So we're going to write in here Aetherios, hegemony, I'll get the spelling, military ranks. Okay. Do I anticipate the players being part of the military? Well, they're certainly involved with the military in one way or another. Whether that is directly as troops or not, that's going to come out of the Session 0 kind of campaign. You know, do they want to be part of that? Whether it's as special free agents, which I strongly suspect that most players will go for, so they have a lot more freedom in terms of their operation. And if so, as free agents, they need to know the ranking structure so they can see where they fit in. So that's what we're going to talk about in terms of designing this whole thing. So from a hegemony perspective, there are some important things. Now, I think the most important thing is this force comprises of men and women who voluntarily have signed up for a 6-month tour of duty. The higher ranked members above captain are permanent, it'll spell as permanently employed by the hegemony. Okay, so this is a voluntary force. Now, what does that mean? What does that mean? Voluntary forces, sorry, it's very hot in the studio today for some unknown reason. Voluntary forces are quite special. Generally speaking, because this is kind of a Greco-Romanesque type of setting, the forces were ostensibly voluntary. But if you didn't volunteer and your city fell, you would be paying homage to another city for a year or more, and that could be quite crippling. So it was a kind of volunteer or die kind of situation. There have been armies in the past where it's volunteer or not die, but your cause might not survive. In those instances, there have been cases where the armies have, because they're voluntary, left before an important battle, leaving the general stranded. it creates some very interesting tension. Why would they leave before the general is about to declare his attack? It's a no confidence in the general, entirely possible. It is the fact that perhaps there are dissenters within that army who are now trying to cause it to fall apart. It could be because there are operatives within that army who have purposefully been there to seed dissent and to ensure that this voluntary army doesn't move forward. There are a whole lot of reasons why, and when we add in fantasy to that, there could be charm spells operating, there could be suggestion spells operating, there could be all kinds of things going on as to why that voluntary army may not necessarily engage in the battle. So this is an important component, and it's one that I feel that I needed to add to this campaign to make it feel more like it belonged in the Greco-Roman space. So these armies of young men and women would be raised as needed. They wouldn't necessarily have a standing army. They might have palace guards and the like, but generally speaking, it would be voluntary. Now, there's a reason why I put in there 6 months. Again, it is voluntary for a season or so. And a season, although a season is 4 months, 6 months is generally considered enough time for you to have sown your crops. You then go off into battle, you come back, and then you reap your crops. And oftentimes, the idea of harvesting crops was one of the reasons why battle campaigns ground to a halt during that period. Well, if there's no one to gather the crops will rot in the field, and then everyone will starve in winter. So it's an important and very critical time period for the characters to get there. That is another reason, one of the many reasons, why your campaign season is usually spring through to early autumn, is because that's the period where you've kind of planted everything. Everything is now just doing its bit to grow, and you can now go off and fight each other in battles. Anyway, all of this comes into play. It starts to inform us as to how the situation works. Already, I can think of adventures where the contact, the representative of the hegemony, comes up to the players and goes, our army is at its weakest as we are at harvest season. We have barely 2,000 men on the payroll, and they are scattered across the hegemony. We desperately need you to infiltrate Jakar's army and assassinate one of her generals. We hope that this will buy us enough time to rally troops of our own so we can make a proper defensive when she does finally attack. It's an instant adventure that pops out, and it's all because we're trying to think of how this system works. Now, we don't have to go much further than that, so let's carry on and let's have a look further down. Right, so what are the alternative names for the Eutherios hegemony military ranks? I don't think we need to have any further types of things in there. Let's put a type in here. This is a military formation. Let's see, military generic. Let's go with military generic. We don't have commissioned and non-commissioned officers. Okay, reports to, we haven't yet created the king or the leader of the hegemony. Uther is not yet there, so we will add that in. Okay, so now, what equivalent ranks exist to different organizations? A lord might be the same as a laird or a graf, as one might want to go. So I'm going to put in here, I'm going to say a captain is equal to, captain is equal to an operative. Or a, what would we call it? I would say we could probably call it a hero. I think, again, because of the setting with Eutherios and the like, we can call them heroes. They were trying to become heroes. So once you are an official hero, and that starts to get my little mind thinking, aha, this could be a critical component as well. So let's add that in. Where they're going to have a lieutenant, and that is equal to, well, we've got the hero. So I'm going to put there first class hero, and I'm going to put here a second class hero. And this is now starting to trigger little things in my mind. Whether it's fun or not, I'm not sure. Let's see. Above a captain, I'm going to put there a commander, and the commander is equal to, I would say, a realm hero, a hero of the realm. So instead of first class, we're going to call this say, city hero, and we'll think about it. We have a city hero, and this is a village hero. All right, so we've got these different scales starting to come through of the different types of heroes. And if you think about it, a hero is basically just reputation. Now, a lot of games have reputation as an inherent mechanic. Start to think about how you could use that in this case here, where we say, well, you're only a village hero. You're only known in your village. Yeah, you're pretty good, but you're not that good. It also gives the player something to aspire to. Oh, you're only a city hero. Well, yeah, not bad. You want to become a realm hero. Okay, well, now you've got to go and slay 3 dragons and this and that and the next thing. So it can become quite an adventure driver. And again, just by thinking about what are some critical components. Okay, so what are the qualifications? You know what? I'm actually renaming this now. This is no longer the Aetherios Hegemony military ranks. This is the Aetherios Hegemony hero ranks. I've decided that this is a hero thing. I am deleting this. And again, or maybe I could just make another template. It doesn't matter. So I'm going to say here, the hegemony has a rather logical system that supports individuals who perform acts of service on behalf of the hegemony, but are not employed by the hegemony. It does strike me that most players are going to want to play independence rather than part of a military structure. In all of my years of gaming, I think maybe of the dozen games that I've run where there has been the option of the players being part of the system, they generally choose not to be. The most famous one that I can think of where the heroes were part of the system and where I failed to do this properly was the Adventures of the Windswift. That is a major learning curve. That show you can watch on my other channel. It's been there forever. It's almost 2 years worth of campaign. But in that, I only worked out the ranks a little bit later on, and I never worked out the actual protocols that should be there. I worked out the crew of the ships. I thought I had solved the critical components. And this is what I was talking about earlier, is that it doesn't matter how much you prepare, you can never prepare enough. So, in other words, prepare less. Did my players have less of a fun time because I hadn't had it worked out? No, they didn't. They knew who their first officer was. They kind of knew how the ships worked. They sort of had a ranking structure, and they sort of knew who was in charge. It was enough for them to enjoy their first couple of adventures and give me time to realize what was missing so I could add it in later on. Okay, so we've now got these hero ranks. They are officially heroes. This starts to remind me of Fable, that computer game / console game where one was a hero or a villain, and one sort of earned these points. So I think this is quite interesting to do it that way. So no longer is it a military generic. It is a I think it's a profession. To be perfectly honest with you. I think it's a civic profession, and what we can now do is we are now going to swap these around. So I'm going to cut that, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to show you what I'm going to be doing now. So we don't have operative anymore because it is now just that. So yes, this could be, well, not could be. And again, this is one of the reasons, I keep saying that. This is my new buzzword. I'm going to stop that. This is a reason that I love doing this. And that I like these templates because they get you to think. They get you to think things that you wouldn't necessarily cogitate on your own. So a realm hero is equal to a commander who is also equal to, let's say, within the nobility of the hegemony, let's say that a commander is equal to I'm going to say a duke, whereas a captain is equal to a baron, and a lieutenant, I would say, is equal to, let's say, duke, baron, what comes underneath a baron, a baronet. I hate that word, baronet. Not a huge fan of it. I'm just going to put here a sir. So it is a lord who has a who is called a sir or a sir knight. Let's put it that way. They don't have a barony, but they are part of a barony. So that's the kind of equivalency that we can expect. Now, I do feel that we should have something higher than a realm hero. So firstly, let's say here a county hero. And then I would say realm hero is going to be pretty high. So that would be captain, commander. Above commander, we would have general, perhaps, which is equal to a lord. Well, technically all dukes and things are lords. So what's above a duke? A count, I suppose. Dukedom, county, doesn't really matter. We'll come again. We come and we clean it up, and we'll look at it, and we'll do some research as well. And then we're going to have the champion of the realm. So we have a realm hero. You guys are not bad. You're not bad. You're not as good as the champion of the realm, though. We could call it champion of the realm. We could call it defender of the realm. This would be equivalent to a prince slash princess. But within the army itself, it would be the commander-in-chief. Now, this is an incredibly prestigious position to be champion of the realm, but you have defended the realm quite literally from multiple invasions. Multiple invasions. And then this would just be a hero. Oh, you think you're some kind of hero, do you? Lieutenant, you would just be a soldier, and you would have no equivalency whatsoever. So a commoner. That's it. That's it. Now I'm just going to bold these up so that where they stick out quite nicely when we reference this page. There are our ranks, so we can now give these ranks to our players, and I don't mind that they've evolved from military rank to hero rank. I think that's much more exciting. I probably should have thought about that beforehand. What are the qualifications? Okay, so this is where it starts to become important, again, because this allows your players to invest. So if there is a systemized way in which people can rise to the ranks of hero, we need to understand how we would do that. What would be the process of actually achieving that? So are there any qualifications that need to be attained beforehand? Do you need to have a qualification to be a hero? And I think the qualification is to be noble of spirit, fair in judgment, and honest in action, and honorable to their word. There we go. So that is the qualification. To be noble of spirit, fair in judgment, and honest. So it would be honest in action and honorable in to their word. All right. So I think that's a pretty good one. I'm going to take that and I'm going to italicize it because it's almost like the idea. Right. So to become a hero. So to become a hero. Let's say perform an act of extreme danger to save the life of another. Right, so that's a hero. Now, a village hero is perform an act of extreme danger to save the life of 5 people, 10 people. How many people are worth a knightship? To save the life of the village, or roughly 100 citizens of the hegemony. Yes, okay, so there we go. All right, so roughly 100 citizens is a village worth of people. I think we can go along those lines. Again, we can come back to this. Now, you would have the Mages Guild going, oh, but hang on a moment, shouldn't we be able to have heroics within the College of Magic as well? I mean, we work with dangerous things all the time. But we don't necessarily save people. We discover spells that will save people, or could potentially save people. Anyway, you can add that in if you so choose. But generally speaking, I would say that we're running along these lines. So I'm going to copy this because I can see where this is going. So that's village hero, city hero. Perform an act to save the life of the city, or roughly 100,000 citizens of the hegemony. And you know what I'm going to put here? I'm going to put here at least 3 times. 3 is the magic number. At least 3 times. So Captain Kirk, who saved the universe once or twice, you're a hero. Saved the universe 6 times. Now you're demoted to captain because you didn't follow the rules. You know, I mean, it's crazy, right? So county hero. We're going to say this. We now know where we're going with this. So this is 10,000 people. Boom, boom, boom. So this is a county's worth. 10,000 citizens of the hegemony. Realm hero is exactly the same. Which is roughly 100,000 citizens. 3 times. 3 times. Because, well, we're not just going to give these away to anybody. I mean, it's not like you can just be born and have the title. That's only something that we give to the people who run the country, the dukes and the barons and that sort of thing. That's hereditary, because rulership is in your blood. But being a realm hero, well, that's totally different. Champion of the realm. Perform an act of extreme danger to save the life of the realm, because you can't save more than that. Well, I suppose you could say world, but then you'd need a bigger title, right? Roughly, we're talking 100,000 citizens. Was it 100,000? Is that correct? Yes, it was. 100,000 citizens of the hegemony, as well as the life of the ruling monarch. Okay, that I don't think. Oh, no. Monarch at least 3 times. Right, there we go. So you've got to be impressive. You've got to be really, really, really impressive in order to do that. How are you appointed to this rank? That's a good question. So I'm going to say the local ruling authority must recognize your achievement and add their official seal to your heroic papers. Okay, now, this is something that's just come into my mind. There was a film, I beg your pardon, there was a film that came out called A Knight's Tale with Heath Ledger. And in it, it was a bit of a spoof, a bit of a fantasy sort of type of thing. There was no magic involved, but it was a modern twist on an old tale. And something that really impressed upon me was the fact that they needed to have their knightly documents, their papers, proving their lineage and their historical purview of being a knight so that they could joust in the tournament. Now, there was all kinds of trickery as to how they got hold of those papers, but it does inspire me that perhaps heroes need to have papers too. Well, hold up your paper where it says that you got the head of the bandit who's been terrorizing the village, and we'll put a seal on that. And that seal is a magical seal. Okay, so, right, their official seal to the seal papers. The seal is made of a special wax drawn from the combs of subterranean, I'm going to put there rock bees. Don't know what they are, busy making them up as we go. Subterranean rock bees. The seal is anti-magic, fireproof, and has a hardness of 100 because you can't break it. The only means of removing a seal is if the ruling authority of the area that issued the seal removes it. All right, so it's a permanent record, a permanent mark, if you like, magical type of thing. Okay, so duties to respond to the distress of any citizen of the realm where the outcome may affect the entire realm if it is not resolved. That's pretty broad. I'm keeping it broad for a reason. I don't want to have every peasant running up to my heroes going, oh, but you're a hero. You've got to help me get my corn in because otherwise everyone's going to die. It's true, and yes, it would affect the realm if the entire village was to starve to death, but I don't feel that that's very heroic. I think it needs to be better defined than that. So let's move this even further, where the outcome may affect the entire realm if it is not resolved. Resolved, and the local authorities are incapable of solving it, or there is significant threat of loss of life. So send the heroes. It's good for them, but they're also disposable. I think that could work quite well. How long are you a hero for? I would say if after 5 years there is no new seal upon your heroic, what do we call them? Heroic papers. Your papers are no longer valid. So you lose your status. If after 5 years you haven't saved anyone, yeah, you don't need to be worried. Okay, so is there a benefit to being a hero? Why would our characters want to be heroes? I would say, let's go back to this table here. I'm just going to copy this table. Oh, copy it. Thank you. And I'm going to paste it there, and I'm going to come back here and just delete these very quickly. Boom, boom, boom. Back one more. I'm going to say here, an official hero who has a seal upon their heroic papers. We'll come up with a name. We'll probably call them the Papyri, or something in, you know, where are your edicts, or I don't know. We'll think of something. Upon the heroic papers, who has at least one seal upon their heroic papers, is entitled to a small salary per month to resupply gear. I think that's important. So a hero who basically has done one act, I suppose. One act is probably going to get, I would say, 25 gold per month. Now, the average salary in Dungeons & Dragons is 30 gold a month, so 25 is not great. A village hero, I'm going to say, is going to get 100 gold per month. A city hero, I'm going to say, gets 1,000 gold per month. A county hero, I'm going to say, gets 4,000 gold per month. They can basically buy new plate armor every month. And then a realm hero, I'm going to say, is 7,000 gold per month. Look at how the economies of scale just escalate. And I'm going to say here, can draw on the resources of the entire realm. Money becomes irrelevant once you are champion of the realm. People are going to house you, support you, host you, etc., etc. I'm going to go back to our seals very quickly. Where did we put those? Yeah, here we go. So I'm going to open this up a bit and come back here. Perform an act of extreme danger to save the life of another. So I'm going to say 1, 2, 3 seals. Well, no, hang on, wait. There, gain 1 seal. All right. Okay, so then you have to have performed 3 of those, so you would have 3 seals. So the seals start to determine your rank. Now, you're not going to get to 100,000 seals. That would be crazy. Although they do need to be there. They do need to be there. So the seals magically combine to reflect the number of seals attained through heroic acts. There we go. All right, add it in. Accoutrements, and equipment. No, don't have to worry about that. Removal or dismissal. Should the hero ever perform an evil act, and it is brought and proven before the local authority, the hero is stripped of one seal. The hero is also given a black mark upon their heroic papers. If they attain more than 5 black marks, they are considered enemies of the realm and will be hunted and executed. There we go. All right. So I think that's a pretty exciting thing to have added, and it emerged. Let's just save this quickly. Oops. I'm going to say, right, that's unchecked. We can publish that because I mean, we can come back to it and adjust it. We do need to come back and adjust it. We need to come up with sort of different names and things. So let's have a preview of that. Let's have a look at what that looks like. And then we'll call it for today's session. I hope you have been following along. There we go. So we've got our types. We'll play around with that formatting a little bit, make it a little bit neater. So that could look better. Let me do that now quickly. So that's type. Yeah, we've done that. Okay, here we go. And all I need to do is just do I believe it's break line. And that will pop them down. So yes, this is now done. I'm just going to let it save quickly. Boom, boom, boom. Let's have a view of that. There we go. Now it's nicely laid out for us. We can then highlight these and change them and do whatever we want to them, but that's okay. Right, so here is our hero deed system, which I think is pretty cool. Again, with some formatting, we can make it look a lot prettier. The idea now is that this can be given to the players, and they can now digest this, they can look at it, they can come up with other questions as well. Who is an authority? Well, an authority is someone who is given a seal, some of this crystal underground beeswax, which we've come up with. I mean, imagine now, I mean, when you look at this, and this is going to be next week's, well, this will be on the channel in a couple of weeks' time anyway, is when you look at these rock bees. What if the rock bees were suddenly all murdered or were being taken away? The kingdom would suddenly no longer have a heroic system. Now, under normal circumstances, you'd go, well, that's a bit of a problem. But, you know, no one cares. Except that you've got a whole bunch of heroes now running around desperately trying to make money off of these rock bee seals, which they need in order to escalate their standing within the realm. So now there's an adventure to go and explore what's happened to the rock bees. What if the local ruling authority hates the PCs and starts to give them black marks because they can? The PCs now have to go to a higher authority and appeal and try and prove it. There certainly could be something along those lines. What if a hero burst into the PC's camp one night claiming that there is an authority who is issuing black marks because the authority has been taken over by a lich, but this hero has now got 6 black marks and so cannot go anywhere near the town, and is, as a matter of fact, being hunted by other heroes who don't believe them. So now our party has to go and either stop this evil authority, convince the NPCs to not kill this hero, or kill this hero because they believe that they're lying. You know, so what starts to emerge is from each and every single one of these components, we now start to get adventures, and that makes me really, really, really excited. Anyway, it's something to think about. Well, that's it from me for this week. I hope it's been insightful as to your core components, your key components that you need to add into your game to make them come alive, and so that you're not sitting there going, well, actually, you are part of the military, etc., etc. I'm hoping that this has inspired you to go back, look at your options, and see what you can add to your campaign now. Because we are in the second phase where we're starting to detail out stuff and we're starting to add meat to it. Again, I hope that this becomes clear and it's not a failing or seen as a dismissal. I will come back to these pages and I will update them with cool names or with more information, or I'll work out the system to be a little bit fairer. Saving 100,000 citizens seems quite dramatic. Only Marvel kind of has that kind of power. Well, maybe, but the idea is I can't come back and work on something that doesn't exist. Here now I have something, and I'm pointing at the screen, by the way. Here now I have something that exists, so I can come back and I can reflect upon this, and I can take it and push it further, or, you know, reduce it as I see fit. I hope you've done the same thing. Until next week, happy campaign plotting. So I like the Book of Bad People. I like that. I subscribe to the fact that this shouldn't be read by anybody. No one should read this. I do hear bells though when I see that the book is blank and there's nothing in it. That for me raises some alarms. Bells are ringing. Yeah. So step 1, get a cool book. Step 2, fill it up. Or better yet, go online and follow the templates. That's even better.